Welcome back to the Tyndall Critical Thinking Podcast. We were very encouraged last weekend when we launched by getting 3,000 subscribers, so thank you very much. For those who are new, Tyndallwick approaches issues not from the left or right or some ideological perspective. Rather, we try to present perspectives for which critical thinking thrives. The comment section is open to all praises and abuse. I'm very thick-skinned, and you can't see anything my mother has not already said to me. But please carry on a dialogue that is constructive and edifying to everyone who's in the discussion, so we can advance the thoughts on the specific topics at hand for that podcast. Critical thinkers are not concerned about winning arguments, only understanding the other side of the argument. Myself, being accused of being on the spectrum, I want to offer apologies without regrets now. In this series, we'll explore the meaning of coup d'etat. Considering how some people say this happened to Biden, we'll also explore if it happened to the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and in the last episode, we'll consider if it's actually happening to Trump as we speak. That should be interesting. Now, Coup d'etat is a multiple series podcast, so click subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss an episode. A coup or coup d'etat is characterized by a sudden, violent, and illegal seizure of power from a government, typically carried out by a small group, often including military or political leaders. There are characteristics common to a coup, mainly illegality. A coup bypasses established political and legal processes for changing the government. Suddenness. Coups often are carried out swiftly to minimize resistance. Seizure of power. The goal is to take control of a key state institution such as the military, police, media, and government buildings, whatever. There is limited participants. Unlike a popular revolution, a coup usually involves a small group, often within the government, military, or elite sectors. People associate coups with military actions most often, but there are other types of coups. The military coup, obviously, uses the military to seize control, often suspending or replacing the current government. However, civilian coups can happen as well, where the politicians or civilians may attempt to overthrow the government, sometimes in collaboration with the military. There's also a self-coup. A leader already in power, such as a president, dissolves or overrides existing institutions to consolidate more power, effectively sidelining other branches of the government. We saw Putin do this when he came to power in Russia. There is fertile ground for a coup. Political dissent is number one. Unhappiness with current leadership or government policies.
I'm done with you.
We can see this all over the States, all over town, all over the Western world, actually, where there is a dissent with respect to the politics in every country, namely divided by left and right, along race, along all kinds of other divisions. Economic crisis also fuels coup mentality. Economic instability can prompt leaders or groups to attempt to take control. So this is a time where coups can be manifested. Ideological differences are also present when coup mentality takes place. We can see this in the States for sure. After the election, even though Trump got a full majority of the popular vote and won the House, won the Senate, and won the office, there is still ideological differences between Democrat people and Republican people. This is not good. Military motivation is also fertile ground for a coup. The military may perceive itself as being a stabilizing force and act unilaterally against what it perceives to be a corrupt government or ineffective governance. We're seeing murmurs of this right now in the military after the election. A coup d'etat can drastically shift the political landscape of a country, often leading to periods of instability, authoritarian rule, and civil conduct. So now we have a little bit of a background of what a coup is, how it takes place. Let's use critical thinking to see if Biden was actually involved in a coup of his own office. First, we have to believe that the Democrat or Democratic Party is capable of a coup and this type of behavior. Now, during the election, the Democrats fearmonger about the end of democracy even though they anointed Hillary, Joe, and Kamala with either biased primaries or none at all. Long gone are Democrat primaries. And as far as jailing your opponents, look at the behavior of the CIA, the FBI, the judicial system, etc. on Trump. Now, these are accusations that Democrats foisted upon Trump and his administration before the election. But how can Letitia James, as Attorney General in a free and democratic state, campaign on jailing political opponents? And this doesn't even make the news. Then they blame Trump for damaging democracy. The Democrat Party has provided enough evidence, in my mind, they do have the capability of bringing about a coup.
For that, we are continuing to follow the unprecedented FBI raid of Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. The search of a former president's home marks a very significant escalation into the probes Trump is facing from his time in office and in private business.
When does willfulness factor in? Is it now in his diminished mental capacity, or is it then when he was serving as senator and vice president?
A jury would be assessing President Biden's mental state and his intent, or whether or not he had willfulness at the time that the conduct was committed.
Correct, and I think everyone can kind of plainly see the transgression or the difference between then candidate Biden or Vice President Biden and what is going on now. And so this is where I go to it. As the chairman talked about it in his opening comments, he had 8 million reasons to hold these documents. In fact, he disclosed some of this information to his ghostwriter. And so I think that there could have been willfulness. And I think, I've got 10 seconds left, but look, since 2016, there have been 3 candidates to run for president. All 3 have had allegations of issues surrounding the retention and holding of classified documents. But Mr. Hur, only one of them has been charged, and that's President Trump. And that's why people think and view this as a 2-tiered system of justice. Thank you, sir.
People, when you use your brain to critically think, you have to be unbiased. When you see people turning the other way when crimes are being committed because they are hurting your enemies, is not a value system that is beneficial to yourself or anyone else long term. Therefore, anyone who participates in this type of hypocritical behavior is susceptible or does have the inclination to do other things that are nefarious as well. Now let's look at Biden specifically. He was declared fit to run for president February 2024. By May, like King Belshazzar, the writing was on the wall. By June, the powers that be moved from Plan A to Plan AR-15, which failed on July 13th with the assassination or attempted assassination of Donald J. Trump. I'm sure the powers that be had to come to Jesus discussion with Joe on July 17th and went something like this. Joe, we're in Las Vegas right now. It seems that you look a bit pale. And then Joe says, then they went to Jill. He says, look, we're going to put Joe into the hospital. We got Joan Rivers, the doctor, looking after him, and Jeffrey Epstein, the security, going to be there with the Secret Service. So you'll have no worries. Then Jay had a thought about it and said, okay, fine, we'll pull out of the race. By July 21st, Kamala was anointed, and she was in running for president. This is old school Russian democracy. It's a masterclass in what Putin and Stalin would be amazed at. Putin was actually probably taking notes. Stalin probably in awe from the grave. Whether you think this was or wasn't a coup, it should be unsettling that this happened in a free and democratic society. Please leave your comments and discuss among yourselves in a civil manner that raises issues with respect to this situation. In no way does polarization help a discussion if people can't listen and respect each other.